So we're on the heels of Sukkot, of course, and I thought I'd spend a few moments speaking about Simcha, which I think is a very important topic, and I welcome anybody's input or comments as I go along. I hope I'm not the only one speaking here tonight. So, there's a pasuk in Tehillim which says, so the pasuk says, Bikudei Hashem Yesharim Mesamchei Lev. Bikudei Hashem Yesharim Mesamchei Lev. That means the Bikudim, which we'll explain in a moment, of Hashem are straight and they make the heart happy. Mesamchei Lev. So generally, the word Bikudei or Bikudim refer to the mitzvahs of Hashem. But, of course, when you say mitzvahs, you mean the commands of Hashem. So what's the etymology of the word Bikudim? Where does that come from? So there's a very interesting radak that explains that the word Bikudim comes from the word Pikadon, or a deposit. Deposit is an object that, let's say somebody is given an object to watch for a certain amount of time. So it's deposited with them and they safeguard it. They keep it very careful in their possession until the person would return to pick it up. So that means to say that there's something that's deposited within all of us from Hashem and is supposed to make our hearts very happy. And of course, the thing that's deposited with us is a life of Torah and fulfilling mitzvahs. Bikudei Hashem Yesharim, they're straight. Mesamchei Lev, and they make the heart happy. Now, this potential for following Torah and fulfilling mitzvahs, if they're a deposit inside of us, that means it's hardwired, says the Radak, into our seichel, into our intellect. So that means there's something internally that's inbred within us. He actually says from the time of bar mitzvah, or bas mitzvah I guess also, it becomes entrenched in our very being, and it flows through our veins, every fiber of our being. These mitzvahs of following Hashem. And as I said, they're a bikadon, so they're inbred within us. So, since it says Mesamchei Lev, that means that only these things, following mitzvahs, learning some Torah, are able to make us happy. And that's because since it's part of us, so if we don't have that, so then what happens is that we're only unfulfilled in our lives, and somehow we become a little bit depressed. So we need simcha, we need happiness, because then we're totally in sync with who we are and our intellectual world, our emotional world, and our spiritual world. Now, you'll notice that it says Mesamchei Lev, makes the heart happy. But it doesn't say Mesamchei Adam, that it makes the person happy. It doesn't say the entire person. It's a strange kind of language. What does it mean to make one's heart happy? Generally, we would think of the person as being happy. So the Radak says that the human being is made up of two distinct parts. One is the leiv, or the seichel part, which is the intellect, the emotional part, and one is the corporeal part of the human being himself. And they're two distinct, completely separate parts. If you feed one, then the other one goes hungry. And if you feed the other, then the other one goes hungry. So somehow you have to bridge the gap so that the emotions and the intellectual level are nourished without starving the body. And the body is totally nourished and needs what it needs. And the seichel is not undernourished. So the way we can do that, well, first, before I give examples of how this can be resolved, I'd like to give two reasons why a person will not be truly happy unless he leads some type of life full of mitzvahs and Torah. So the first one comes from the Mesilas Yesharim, and he says that it would be comparable to a poor peasant who gets married to a princess. So of course the peasant wants to keep the princess very happy. Not only is she his wife, but she's the future queen of the entire empire. And she's only happy by very specific things out there in the world that could satisfy her. So the peasant tries to bring her gift after gift to try to fulfill her wishes, and nothing is possibly good enough for her because she is a bas malachim. She is a princess. And who is he? He's only a common person, a peasant. So she is never ever satisfied with whatever he could bring. So the Mesilas Yesharim says that she is representative of the soul, and the peasant is the body. If you try to nourish or feed the soul or the princess, she'll never be satisfied with this world, with no matter how good the things are, where they come from, what type of wonderful, great desires you can possibly fill. That would only feed the human part, the body part. But to feed the soul is a whole different ballgame. That comes from the nourishment, as Sukkot comes upon us very close, of having a sukkah, having a biluv of an esrog, being able to use it. It means a lot for me personally on Sukkot, just to be able to somehow be able to maneuver a little bit to hold the esrog and the biluv a little bit, try to get that done. So it's a big bracha, it's a very big blessing to be able to have so many of these mitzvahs that we have. It's a very big bracha. Yom Kippur was yesterday. It seems like a long time ago already. But Yom Kippur is a time that can be utilized for so much good, so much inspiration and uplifting good feelings. So, if the parable would work, then our soul, which is comparable to the princess, needs nourishment with something that talks to her. And then, of course, as I said, would be a life of Torah and mitzvahs. And secondly, the reason why we could never be happy without this type of approach to life is because, as we said, that this drive or desire to fulfill these precepts is hardwired, so to speak, into our very being. So if we neglect these things, we're not truly in tune with who we are, what we were born with, or bar bat mitzvah into. So that's why it is so crucial and critical to be able to live this sort of life. So everybody's very quiet. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions. Oh, thank you.
So this embeddedness that you're speaking about, does that come from the soul being present at Har Sinai? Is that what that connection is made? Like, how do we understand that connection?
The connection to Har Sinai?
Well, no, the connection, the hardwiring. The hardwiring that you spoke about, is that
Right.
a result of that an aspect of ourself was present at Har Sinai? Is that how we understand it, or something else?
No, well, it could be. But, I mean, it's in the soul that Hashem breathed into each of us. So, I assume it's, in our case, being Jews, I guess it's an aspect of us, ourselves, our souls, being present at Har Sinai, yeah. Okay. Now,
I have a question.
yes.
We're talking about Mesamchei Lev.
Right,
So gives joy to the heart.
right.
Doesn't give anything to the intellect? No simcha to the intellect?
No, well, he says seichel, actually.
Huh?
The Radak says seichel.
Well, it's within
The Radak.
Hashem Yesharim, Mesamchei
Lev. And he,
Lev.
he says that Lev, Hainu, seichel.
Lev Secher.
Yeah, that's what he says. But I assume it's more than just seichel also. It's the whole inner world. So it's emotional level and spiritual level, it's everything. Yeah. Yes.
Does our soul change, or is it just revealed as we get older?
That's a very thought-intriguing question. I think more of it is revealed as we become more mature, as we grow older in age. We understand more. Therefore, we get more in tune with who we are. Yes.
Having Emunah means also you must be a man of simcha, lots of simcha. I mean,
I hope we all are, sure.
Is there any relationship?
Money?
Is there any relationship between the two? Emunah
Well-
and simcha.
Well, there is for sure. But that's the body part. We need the body part for sure.
Okay.
That's why we have so many mitzvahs involving eating and enjoying life and all. But we have to keep in mind that's only part of the ballgame, because we're only nourishing half of us. The other half also has to be nourished in tandem in order to be fully, completely happy.
So you could look at it as if you're going on a trip, a long drive,
Right.
and you have car trouble, and you didn't take food with you, so yeah, you could stop by the highway and run into McDonald's, you're out in the middle of nowhere, no one's gonna know, right?
Right?
Or, so then in that case, you'd be nourishing your body, but not your soul. Or you could stop in the town, oh, they have a Loblaws there, okay, I can go in and get some food that's kosher, eat that. And then, in that case, you're nourishing both the body and the soul. And
Exactly,
if you
beautiful.
make a bracha, you're even nourishing the soul
Right,
conditionally.
right, you're one up, that's right. Oh, that's great. Yes,
Well, they say that when your heart and your intellect are happy and at ease, it's part of healing the body as well.
mm,
Not, I mean, a good intellect and a happy heart
right,
participate to a good being.
that's right. A holistic being, that's right. 100%. So, when it comes to doing mitzvos, I think a lot of people may have obstacles when it comes to different people doing the same mitzvah in different ways. And it often feels as if one of our neighbors may be doing it in a more perfect form, and it may be the exact same mitzvah. But let's say they're shuckling more, or I don't know, they're lighting candles instead of 18 minutes before, 20 minutes before. Everyone seems to be doing different levels or different approaches, ways of doing it. So I saw a very interesting mashal in Michtav Eliyahu that says, those who are interested, it's in the Chelek Aleph, page 22 on the bottom. So this was a favorite of mine when I used to teach in the classroom. So if you could try to imagine, there were a long line of 70 people waiting, and you're number 2 in line. So there's 68 people behind you, and each of you is representing, you're an ambassador from your country to offer something to the king who's sitting in a big throne, and he's a real monarch. So that life and death are by his word, and every word that you say to him is going to be measured and inspected, analyzed to make sure that it's worthy. And if you slip up or you make a slight error, then he may say the word and your life is at stake. Not only your life, but your entire country's life. You could send out large armies to go to war against your country that you're representing. So what you did was, for a full month before arriving at this place, you rehearsed and over-rehearsed and practiced and learned every single word that you were to say to the king. And not only every word, but how you stood, your posture, how close or far, how many inches away your feet would be, where your hands would be exactly, how your head would be tilted, the exact way you'd be standing, and hold yourself, how you'd present yourself. And every inflection of every phrase was all practiced and choreographed in advance. And you had many, many friends over that month come and review and critique every single word, every phrase, and you had to rewrite it again and again to practice it over and over in front of mirrors and in front of video cameras, and you practiced again and again until you had it so clear that your 15-minute speech was flowing through your veins, until you had it unbelievably perfect. And you had a gift. And right now it was sitting on the floor next to your right side. And the gift, of course, to be chosen. So perfect for a king who already had everything. What could you possibly give to someone who has it all? And he could have it all. So it was chosen with such care, and it was packaged perfectly inside a box, and there was a ribbon with a bow on top that fit perfectly, exactly how it should have gone. And it was laying at your side on the right. So the person ahead of you, as you waited for him to be called up, you noticed something very familiar, and you looked at the gift that was at his side, on his right side where he was standing, and it looked very familiar to the box that you had, that you chose with so much care. So you just started thinking a little bit. It was a little bit familiar. And then you just noticed the way he was standing was very, very familiar, or seemed very accurate to what you had practiced and planned for so much time. So you're watching the man in front of you, and he starts taking step by step by step, and every stride he takes is exactly the steps that you planned before. And he took 8 steps to get in front of the king, and then he bowed down. And that bow, you've seen it before. You've seen it 100 times in front of the mirror. It was exactly what you had planned, what you had practiced over and over again. Then he got up from the bow. Of course, it looked exactly the same as you planned. And then the most dreadful thing happened. The man opened his mouth and he started to speak. And the first 3 words were exactly the same words that you planned. But not only the same words, the same accent, the same inflection of tone, everything. And he went through the entire 15-minute speech. And of course it was the same. Every single word, every phrase, every turn of the head, every posture shift was exactly the same as you choreographed. And then he bent down and he picked up his gift. And the gift on the outside matched yours exactly. You took an extra glance down at your gift, and you looked at his, and it was the same. You pulled open the bow, and the guy in front of you reached down inside the box, and he pulled out the same gift that you had for the king. So there was no deviation whatsoever from what the previous man had brought for the king. The same gift, the same speech, the same bow. You had absolutely nothing more to add. So now you had to make a decision. Should you go through with what you had planned, but it would be exactly the same, nothing to add? Should you slip behind the next guy, let him go next? Should you slip behind number 10, number 40? Should you go to the back of the line? So, as the man in front of you lifted up his head, you quickly slipped behind the guy standing behind you. And you wanted to wait for that guy to go next. In the meantime, the man who spoke first and presented his gift sat off on the side. And now there's 67 people behind you. And of course, I used to go through the same thing. The next guy did exactly the same thing. Nothing to add beyond and above what the previous man, the first guy, did. And there you were standing right in the front. So now you had a big decision, of course. But before you decided to look over your shoulder at the other 67. and he saw their postures were exactly the same. And every single gift was exactly the same. You were sure that their voices would sound just like yours. It would be the same words. And you watched the guy in front of you, and he went, and of course, he did exactly the same thing that you planned. And when it was your turn, there was nothing else you had. You couldn't possibly do anything else. You didn't have a different gift. You couldn't think of a different speech. You knew this so well. There's no way you could change it. So you went ahead and you did what you knew. You just went through the motions. So then I would ask, how would the king feel if you were to get the same gift from every single person, from every nation that's known on the face of the planet? How would the king feel? So of course the kids would tell me that you would feel awful. Nobody had anything different for him. Everybody had the exact same gift to offer. There's nobody who had anything different or special or unique to them. Everybody's exactly the same. And how would you feel, the person having to present the exact same thing to the king with nothing to add, nothing to color it, nothing to make it unique, nothing to make it yours? So of course, the parable is there to teach us that the king, of course, is like Hashem. And the people of line represent each of us. That unless we have our own way of doing everything we can to fulfill each and every mitzvah to the best of our abilities, to the highest potential that we can possibly muster, so then we're not being true to ourselves, and we're not adding anything to Hashem. We don't want to be, he says, Kishem she'ein partzufein, shtei partzufim dumi, kach ein deoseim shamim. Which means just like there's never been two faces that have been comparable in the long, long, long history of man, there never will be two faces that were the same. There's also not two thought processes or a way of thinking, way of doing things. We can't possibly do two things the same. And that's because it wouldn't add anything to what's already been done, what will be done, what could be done. There's never been two people on the face of the planet that have done two things exactly the same way. So I think we should take that into mind, hopefully all of us, that when we fulfill mitzvahs, when we learn Torah, we should give it everything that we have, as much as we can do. And that way, not only will we be as happy as we can be, but we'll be giving Hashem something so unique that only we ourselves are able to do. So, I'm open for any questions if you want. You can ask me anything, doesn't have to be about this.
The king could have been happy with the realization that everybody understood what his likes were and knew so much about him that they all came to the same conclusion, which
Right.
would indicate he'd been consistent in his rule and his communication of his reign.
Right.
So a commonality might not necessarily be a bad thing if everybody knew he liked gardening roses or, you know.
Right.
So that would be the highest order of gift they could think to give him. You know, I mean, one person might have given a yellow rose and somebody else might have given a red rose, you know.
Okay.
So there'd be a variation, but he was interested in gardens and they all moved
Certain
in
things.
that direction.
Right. Well, that's what I'm proposing. That all people know what the king wants, and they know exactly what he's expecting. But each person is going to do it differently because each person is different, and they're made purposely different so that they can approach it differently. As long as each person is doing their utmost to try to do what the king wants. That's right.
But
Okay, go ahead.
the way you described it, it seems like you had clones, one of each other, like the same gift, the same posture, the same.
Yeah, that would be a
Speech.
problem, right?
So that's not what we are. We each practice.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. That this would be a problem.
Oh, it would be a problem.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
As long as each person is, as our friend said, is trying to do what the king wants, trying to fulfill
their own
what he
capacity.
wishes, up to their own capacity. That's right.
So when we're talking, what you said about bringing a gift, it's to do
Right.
the mitzvah, right? To do the
Right,
mitzvah.
right. That's right.
So it's not the ways that I do it, it's the emotion,
No, it's not
it's
exclusive.
how I do the mitzvah, but for doing the mitzvah, I have the Shulchan Aruch, the book of law.
Okay,
how
but
to
it's
do it.
different for each person.
Oh, the
I don't
feeling.
do mitzvahs like you do mitzvahs.
Huh?
Every person is different, right?
What do you mean, by
Do
thinking,
it.
by
No,
feeling?
no. Even the actual doing. The actual doing. I could hold a esrog and it could fall down. Then what do I do? I'm saying every person is all different. I don't hold the lulav and esrog the way you do. But I still get the mitzvah. Right? I get a mitzvah for eating on Yom Kippur. The same way you get a mitzvah for fasting. Why? Because we're both fulfilling the Ratzon Hashem. We're both doing the will of Hashem. We're doing the will of Hashem, we're doing the right thing.
And this is the story with the Belzer Rebbe, the Belzer Rov. As we saw him on Yom Kippur, he was sick.
Yeah,
It is shining, his face, like on Pesach night, on the Seder.
yeah,
He asked him, how comes? He said, I'm fulfilling now, the will of Hashem. Hashem wants from you to fast.
Exactly.
For me, he wants to. So what's the difference? No difference.
right, right.